everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to do a book tag. I haven't done a book tag probably in a couple of months at this point, but I randomly came across this idea from Jen from the Book Refuge. I think she posted her video either today or yesterday or something like that. So I watched her video today and I immediately wanted to do this tag. So I'm gonna link her video down below. I'm also going to link the original creator of this tag down below. I can't remember who the creator is, so I'm sorry, but they will definitely be linked in the description for you guys. So these questions are kind of fun. It's all about mood reading and if books affect your mood in general, and books that make you happy, books that make you sad, all of those things. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So question one is, do you consider yourself to be a mood reader? Yes and no. I will say in 2021, I have become more of a mood reader than in years past. I really only started keeping track of my reading in 2018, so I can tell you that in 2018 through 2020, I was very particular every month about having a set TBR of books that I would read in any given month, and that was going really well for me because, and I still do this to this day, I was putting books on my TBR that I was very excited about reading, so I didn't have any problems getting to them within a month or something like that. But in 2021, I've definitely gotten more into mood reading, so to kind of compensate for that, I set smaller TBRs for myself. You'll kind of notice in the last few months, the TBR videos that I make, I feature less books in general than I used to in years past. And that is so that I can give myself more room to mood read in any given month. So the short answer is yes, and then I already gave you the long answer, but this actually goes right into question two, which is, do you set TBR lists and do you stick to them? So I think I already pretty much covered that, but yes, I do, and I make TBR videos every month so that you guys know what books I'm really excited about reading. And I've been pretty good about sticking to my TBRs, although I have noticed in very recent months that sometimes there's like 2 or 3 books that'll fall to the wayside because I just get really excited about like new releases, or if I hear another booktuber talk about a book that I've already been really looking forward to reading, then sometimes I'll just kind of put my TBR to the side and pick up that book or something like that, you know? So yes, I do set TBRs, and for the most part, I do stick to them. So question 3 is, do books affect you emotionally? Does the mood of a book rub off on you? Absolutely, books affect me emotionally, and I have a small stack of books next to me in terms of like examples of specific books and specific moods that these books have put me in. But yes, when I am reading any book in general, I am just always so focused on the story that I'm reading that it's really easy for me to get invested in these characters and what's happening to them. And if it's a romance book in particular, because most of the books that I read nowadays are romances, it's very, very easy for me to get really invested in that relationship. So yes, absolutely books affect me emotionally. And then in terms of if the mood of a book rubs off on me, yes, to that as well. I have one very specific example of that, and that is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a very dark literary fiction novel about our main character Vanessa, and it time jumps between when she was like 15 to now when she's like 27, and we see when she's 15 that she becomes involved in this very problematic and abusive relationship with her much older English teacher. And so then at 27 she's reflecting on that relationship, and yeah, I don't want to delve too deeply into the plots of any of the books that I'm going to talk about, but I just kind of wanted to set that up in case you know nothing about this book. So I can distinctly remember I read this in like the summer of 2020, and it took me 3 days exactly to read this book. And I remember that so distinctly because during those 3 days, this book completely took over my life and completely took over my mood during those 3 days. Like I said, this is a very dark book, and so I just felt really heavy during those 3 days. But what is really great about this book is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and so by the end, there's that glimmer of hope. And So I felt that the ending kind of lifted my spirits as well. Yes, this is like the strongest example that I have for you in terms of a book's mood rubbing off on me. Highly recommend this book, by the way. It's absolutely fantastic, but just know, like, there's plenty of trigger warnings. It's very dark, very heavy. So question 4 is, when you're feeling sad, what do you read, or what do you not read when sad? So I read in general for escapism, and when I'm feeling down or sad, I definitely will tend to turn to romance in general, but I've also realized that YA in particular definitely lifts my spirits, especially if it's more of like a lighthearted YA, like rom-com or something like that. So yes, I definitely would prefer to read something more lighthearted or funny or a romance, something like that when I'm feeling really sad, because that's just a really great way for me to escape my own problems. So this actually goes right into question 5, which is, most often do you use reading to escape, to learn, or to critically reflect? For the most part, it is to escape, but I also do use reading to learn and to critically reflect. That's why I read nonfiction. Now, I don't read nonfiction nearly as often as I read fiction because, like I said, for the most part, I love to use reading as escapism. But there are definitely times when I want to learn and I want to reflect on myself or the world that we live in through nonfiction books, though there are fiction books that can also make you reflect and learn and all of those things. And in fact, the whole reason why I got back into reading in 2018 was because I had recently graduated from grad school and I really wasn't in a great place. I probably was in a depression. And then I discovered Booktube. Actually, Emma Books was the first booktuber that I ever discovered, and so I binged like all of her videos and just immediately became re-obsessed with reading, because I'm someone who loved reading when I was in school, but then in college that fell to the wayside. And so when I fell back in love with reading, I was definitely using it as escapism, and I still very much use it that way to this day. Question 6 is, what is a book that made you laugh out loud? I have a few examples that I want to quickly mention. Let's see. Okay, so the first one, this is probably the most recent book that I can recall that made me laugh out loud, which is Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. Any book that I have read by Tessa Dare makes me chuckle out loud or chuckle inwardly, like internally. I don't know if that even makes sense, but this one in particular made me laugh out loud because it's like the last book in the Spindle Cove series, which like all of the characters in the Spindle Cove series are so entertaining to me. But our heroine, Pauline, made me laugh so much because she ends up getting involved with this man, Griff, who's a duke, and his mother, who was the Dowager Duchess, and it becomes like this Pygmalion / My Fair Lady plot line. And I just loved how like sassy she was and how she kind of trolled both Griff and his mother. Like, that was just so entertaining and fun to read about. So yes, but any Tessa Dare book will make me laugh. Also, I have to mention the Bromance Book Club series by Lyssa Kay Adams. Especially the first 3 books in the series. The 4th book, which is Isn't It Bromantic, didn't really make me laugh all that much, but definitely the first 3 books are absolutely hilarious because the Bromance Book Club gang themselves, they are just so entertaining to read about. And then last book I kind of quickly want to mention is Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. This is a YA novel about our main character, Michael, who's an atheist, but he ends up going to a Catholic high school. And so what was so funny about this is seeing Michael's observations of the Catholic faith, because as someone like me who was raised Catholic, I especially got that humor. And so yes, this one definitely made me laugh out loud numerous times. Question 7 is, what is a book that has made you cry, or if you don't cry, one that really moved you? So it's very rare that a book will make me like sob crying. I've read quite a few books that will make me tear up several times because I'm just so invested in the story and everything, but there is one book that really sticks out to me as a book that I read kind of recently that made me just bawl crying, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. All I'm gonna say about the reason why I cried is that there is a very complicated relationship between our main character Calla and her father, and so that hit just very close to home for me, and yeah, I just couldn't help but get invested in that father-daughter relationship. Yeah, it got me for sure. Another book that I want to mention for this question, it's not a book that made me cry necessarily, but it is a book that made me have an emotional outburst. And that is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. So I'm not gonna spoil anything, but what I will say is that at the very end, I don't know, it's kind of written as if something really terrible happened to one of the main characters. And so when I was reading that part of the book, I don't know, I think I was just angry. I was like broken, upset. I almost threw this book across the room because I could not deal with that ending actually being the ending. And so then when it became clear that that's not what happened, I was very relieved about that. Definitely let out a huge sigh of relief. For sure, but I've definitely heard from some people that have read this book because of my recommendation. They've come back to me and have told me that the ending kind of made them panic, and I feel the exact same way. Question 8 is, what is a book that you don't even know how you felt about? The most recent one that I can think of is Forget Me Not by QB Tyler. This is a very heavy and messy marriage in trouble, second chance romance. And I gave it 5 stars because it's just so beautifully written, but at the same time, to this day, I still feel very conflicted about how I personally feel about the two main characters, our hero and heroine, and I know that it was written to be that way on purpose. You know, this is not a black and white book. There are millions of shades of gray in this story. There's also cheating involved, and this book kind of explores the question of, is cheating ever forgivable? And so that also feeds into the angst and the messiness of the story. So while I gave it 5 stars, I can't really say that like I adored this book. Like, it's just beautifully written and beautifully messy, if that makes sense. Question 9 is, are you more likely to read on a sunny day or a cloudy day? I read all the time. If I'm not working or eating or sleeping or working out or something like that, I'm reading. Any free moment that I have, I'm reading. Unless I'm about to go to bed, then I'll kind of watch some Netflix to kind of wind down for the day. But yes, I read all the time. Then we have question 10. Do you usually set the mood when you read? Music, lights, smells, etc.? Not really. I will say that my favorite place to read is downstairs in the living room of my house, specifically just on the couch in the living room. I used to be really into reading in bed right before going to sleep, but for some reason I don't really do that anymore. And then in terms of sounds, sometimes if I'm reading a book just physically, most of the time I'm reading a book both by audiobook and following along with the physical or the ebook copy. But if I'm reading a book that there is no audiobook version for, I'll usually listen to some type of ASMR video, because those types of videos really help me focus when I'm reading, and they also just really relax me. Because I tend to get distracted very easily if I'm just reading a book physically, which is why I tend to turn to the audiobook most of the time with most of the books that I'm reading. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of setting the mood. I wish that I had like a really cute reading nook in my room. I probably could make one if I really wanted to, but I just like haven't put the effort into it. Then final question is, can you leap from book to book, or do you need buffer time between them? This is kind of a weird thing, I feel like, but I always need at least like an hour of buffer time between finishing one book and starting another one. I don't know, after reading a book, I kind of like to turn off my brain and maybe watch some YouTube videos or watch some Netflix, maybe eat a snack or something like that, and then I'll jump into another book. I don't know why, I think that's just how my brain works. And yeah, that's just kind of how I like to read. So with all of that being said, that's going to be it for the mood reading book tag. I'm not going to tag anyone specifically. If you want to go ahead and do this video, please feel free to do so. Also, leave a comment down below if you just want to answer some of the questions in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on some of these questions and maybe my answers to these questions, things like that. I always love having conversations with you guys in the comments. So I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!